Welcome everybody. Happy New Year. Thank you for coming. Great to see students here tonight. I think we've got an exciting topic to talk about. Hope you all had a great break. Why don't we just jump right in? I think we have to approve, motion to approve the draft minutes.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. And Dr. Kelly, why don't we just jump right in?
Super. Happy New Year, everybody. It's good to have everyone back after what I hope was a wonderful 2 weeks with family and friends. Although we've only been back 9 days, we've accomplished quite a bit. You'll be hearing more later on in our meeting. The finance and facility committees have been busy interviewing construction managers and prioritizing work to be included in our next capital project, which will go before the voters in May when we ask you to consider next year's budget and board member elections. We look forward to sharing more with you in greater detail following our board workshop on Saturday, January 25th at 9 a.m. In the high school, our winter sports season is well underway with our student athletes competing in basketball, ice hockey, skiing, indoor track, and swim and dive. And our performing arts students have been hard at work rehearsing for the high school musical Mamma Mia, which shows are scheduled on February 6th, 7th, and 8th. In our middle school, Joe McCora and Anthony Vaglica have been keeping our kids safe through internet safety workshops with Janelle Burley-Hoffman. They conducted a whole school assembly as well as a parent workshop focused on tech healthy habits for students and families. And then we have the day trips for bowling for 7th and 8th grade and ice skating for 6th. And I'm happy to announce the return of the Washington, D.C. trip for our 8th graders, and that planning is in process. And then also Joe and Anthony Vaglica have conducted mid-year grade level assemblies, which have focused on celebrating the year's achievements and setting goals for success for the remainder of the school year. In the elementary school, the 2nd grade has been knee-deep in Architecture for Kids program. The 2nd graders are wrapping up their Architecture for Kids program, which offers engaging learning experiences in architecture and design. This residency effectively aligns with the 2nd grade social studies unit, focusing on the characteristics of rural, urban, and suburban communities. Through collaboration with the Arc for Kids, our students have participated in a dynamic, hands-on learning experience of planning and construction eco-friendly and sustainable skyscrapers. This year, we were fortunate to have numerous parent volunteers join us in the classrooms, and we thank them for that. In 4th grade, we're currently immersed in producing anti-bullying public service announcements as part of the Unmake a Bully residency. This program is designed to organically develop storylines that reflect real-life social challenges such as peer pressure and exclusion. The students are working to create PSAs that address these negative behaviors and propose positive solutions to interrupt them. The students' red carpet premiere is scheduled for next Thursday, January 23rd at 9 a.m. right here in the auditorium. And this evening, we're fortunate to have our high school student board representative with us, Matthew Curran.
Hello.
Hello.
So starting off, right off the bat, prior to the break, freshman transition had its annual gingerbread house decorating competition, and the winning group of leaders and freshmen got a pizza party. My group did not win, but it was not due to a lack of leadership. Okay? Also, prior to the break, the SFL hosted the annual Holiday Balladay 3v3 basketball tournament in the main gym. Winning team gets a prize, whole thing. Basketball's not really my thing, but yeah. The school Rainbow Coalition held a holiday drive for the Trinity Place shelter in New York City that houses displaced LGBTQ+ youth. They collected coats, toothbrushes, other amenities, all to donate to these shelters that help kids in need. The junior class had its annual course selection meeting. I highlight that one specifically because they're getting ready to apply to colleges, which, taken from experience, is a very stressful process, and that's a very important meeting. Spring sports are beginning to prepare for the upcoming season with interest meetings and winter workouts beginning across the board. I know for baseball we've had a couple workouts. We have one in about an hour in the gym, so it's great that that's all starting up again. Next week, she mentioned the middle schoolers had a bowling trip. The seniors also have a bowling trip, so it's a bowling trip de-stressor following midterms because we all know how stressful those are. And finally, midterms begin next week, which is a very stressful time, especially for certain collegeless seniors entering the week. And that's all.
Thank you, Matthew.
So you want to hang out for the whole meeting?
I'm gonna have to pass. Okay, I'll take you up next time.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Much better than last time.
All right.
So as part of our commitment to communicating about how our Bronxville Promise comes to life in our classrooms, this evening we have 3 high school students, Eleanor Fahey, Isabel Leone, and Margaret Miner, here to share with us their work with AI. In addition, Ann Meyer, our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, will update us on her leadership alongside our Director of Technology, Brad Ashley, creating a committee to research best practices on AI and next steps for us in the Bronxville School. Ann?
Okay, thank you so much for having us this evening. I'm here to give you an update on how we're thinking about AI at Bronxville. And Brad Ashley can't be with us tonight because he's at the Future of Educational Technology Conference, which is an important place to be, and he's messaging me from conference workshops, many of which are about AI. I'll just note that we're going to give you an update right now, and to be honest, by the end of the year, a lot of this will change because everything is changing so quickly in AI. It's a constant adjustment as we look at what we should be doing, how we should be approaching it, and how to communicate to students and parents and faculty. So this evening we'll talk a little bit first with these 3 students about a student perspective in terms of actually AI coding. They're currently in an independent study working on AI through a foundation grant. And essentially what we have is we've partnered with the foundation. This is the 3rd year where we have graduate students from MIT, Stanford, Duke, who are studying AI, synchronously teaching our students every Tuesday during X Block AI. So they're cutting edge in their field, and they're teaching our students the background of AI, how to code, and they're going to tell you about that in a moment. I'll then give you a little update, which Dr. Kelly previewed, of who the AI committee is and what we've been doing, how we're providing professional development to our faculty on these tools, and then next steps. So without further ado, I'm going to hand this over to Eleanor, Margaret, and Isabel, who are going to tell you a bit about this course where they log in every Tuesday at 11 a.m. and work with these AI grad students to learn about artificial intelligence. So go ahead.
So the first unit that we studied this year was linear regression. And so to do this, we built regression models that first input a data set and output the predicted price of a used car. And so to do this, we first built the models using Python algorithms, and then we trained them by giving them a huge data set filled with cars of varying price points and varying factors, and the AI was actually able to detect certain trends and see how much certain factors would affect the overall price of a vehicle. And so some of these factors would include the age of a car, the model, the brand, or how many miles were on it. And with this information, we're actually able to create a graph like the one you see right here. And so this chart is able to tell us if a car is an appropriate price or maybe not. So all of the points that are above this line are cars with a good value. So you can see that for any of these points that are above the line, the predicted value is actually greater than the real price that it's being sold for. And then it's the same with the cars below the line, the predicted price is lower than, the predicted price is higher than the predicted price is lower than what the cars are actually being sold for. So I think this is an amazing aspect of this program, is we're actually able to see these mathematical ideas that we've been studying for the past 3 or 4 years, and turn them into real world applications and really see it come to life.
Okay, so the second unit that we worked on was logistic regression. So we did this by building logistic regression models that can detect whether cells are cancerous or not harmful. And we do this by giving the model, again, a large data set of cells, of pictures that have data coinciding with the pictures, that take in parameters such as radius, size, texture, area, concavity, smoothness, perimeter, and symmetry. And using all this data, we train the model to predict whether or not the cell is cancerous or not. And if the model predicts that the cell is malignant or cancerous, it assigns the data the number 1. And then if they predict that it's benign, they assign the data 0. So you can see the chart, the top is the malignant predicted cells and the bottom is the benign. And so that green line is our differentiating line between what we coded the model to make our differentiating line. So that determines whether or not the line predicts whether or not the data is malignant or benign. And so to train this model ethically, which is something we've also been talking about a lot in our class, we trained the line and the data and the model to favor false positives over false negatives, because in my opinion, I think you'd rather be falsely diagnosed with cancer than to be told you don't have cancer and find out you actually do. So that's something we've been also working on.
So the third topic that we talked about in our class is neural networks. So what a neural network is that it's a machine learning program in which a computer learns to perform some sort of task by analyzing training examples. So in our case, for our class, we created a recognition system that aims to detect whether a certain image, as you can see on the board, is either a dog or a road. And this aims to simulate a self-driving technology because you would want the car to continue going forward if it senses a road, but obviously to stop if it sees a dog, which it does not want to hit. So to create our model, we fed this model 600 images of roads and 600 images of dogs. And what our model does is find visual patterns in the images that consistently correlate with its label. So certain shapes or colors that typically designate it to be a dog or a road. To demonstrate what a neural network is, we learned about 2 main types of neural networks. The first being k-nearest neighbor, shortened to KNN. And how KNN works is that it classifies points based on points that are similar to it. So if you're given a new point, it assigns the data point a label based on the majority set within its neighbors. So if the 3 closest points to are already labeled dogs and 1 is a road, then it will assign the new point to be a dog. And with K, in this case, being the number of nearest neighbors considered in this classification. And then the second neural network we learned about was convolutional neural networks, which is shortened to CNN. And it's primarily used for image recognition and processing, which is what we're doing here. And how CNN works is that it accepts an input, so in this case, the image, and then it applies different layers that recognize different shapes, colors, or just features of the image. And then it finally identifies the object and gives it a label. And in CNNs, we use a large number of epochs. And what an epoch is, it's just one cycle of running through all the training data. So the 1,200 images, it runs through it once is one epoch. And running through all the data more than once allows the model to learn the pattern of the images. And generally speaking, nowadays, more CNNs are used in AI models like that are used today because they generalize more efficiently. So what that means is KNN tends to only be able to recognize something if it's in like one spot in the image. So for example, only if the dog is in like the center of the image, while CNNs are able to recognize features in different locations. Overall, what we took most from this part of the unit was that the future of AI models is really models that can generalize and can process massive data sets.
So I think we just wanted to pause for a moment here before I go on to see if anyone had any questions for the high school students.
Is this fun? Do you guys enjoy this? It looks like a lot of work from my perspective.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I would say it's fun. I think it's really cool, as I said, to see some of the things that we've been learning in math and in science and in computer science, which we're all taking, really come to life and see it have all these real world applications.
Yeah, I'm so impressed. I mean, I don't know if it's true for everybody else, but I didn't get to regression analysis until college. I love that you are able to work with real life practical applications. I love that. Where do you get the data sets? Do you have to purchase them, or are they just available?
A lot of the data I think is publicly available.
And that goes through our teachers too. So they provide us with a very structured learning system. So we work on these digital notebooks that, like Ms. Meyer said, use Python coding. So all the data is already in there, and then we code for the processing and for the epochs and stuff.
Do you guys know what is your current teacher studying? Because I know we have, it depends on the year and who they have, but some of these grad students are doing work in healthcare, some are doing work in space travel. So that's another nice part of this, is they get exposed to grad students in the field and what they're actually doing with these skills.
He hasn't said anything to us about it, so.
You can ask him next time.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for younger students?
I think that definitely to use AI the right way. I know that that's something that will be talked about, and it's widely seen throughout the high school misuse of AI, but it is really an incredible tool that, as we talked about, can help so many people and do amazing things. And I definitely think it's something that's really important to study and learn if that's something you're interested in. So just, yeah, expand your boundaries. I don't think Maggie or I got her to sign up. I convinced her. I don't really know. Either of us knew what we were going into, and it turned out to be much better than what we expected. So,
Did you see any surprising findings coming out of KNN? In particular, sometimes these machines, AI, have what's called hallucinations, and they sometimes see things that aren't there. I'm curious, did you find any surprising findings?
Yeah, we
in the work?
definitely did. I think especially when the dog was more off to the side,
Yeah.
it really had trouble distinguishing that it was a dog. I think when the dog is kind of in the middle right there, it can really identify the eyes and the nose and all the ears. But if it was missing, for example, one of the ears or one of the eyes, it had a lot more trouble distinguishing that it was a dog, and a lot of times it said it was a rodent instead.
Ah.
Yeah. And I thought it was so interesting that you ran the data through more than one time, because I would think with the machine it's going to see the same thing every time, but that's not true.
I think each time the analysis gets more specific, and so there's, for neural networks, there's so many different hidden layers, and so it actually to be able to predict with the accuracy that it has, which 96% is a really large amount, just coming from us trying to get it up to as close to 100 as possible. That's a really great percentage to be at. It really needs to run through the data multiple times just to make sure that it notices all of the patterns, and maybe it doesn't catch something the first time, or and the hope is that as it runs through the neural network multiple times and all the layers in the neural network, that the computer is able to pick up on all the patterns and similarities between images.
Excellent.
Thank you guys
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you very
So well
much.
done.
So I think that gives you a sense of one of the ways that we're approaching AI, which is to give, in particular at this point, high school students the opportunity to study it and understand it more deeply and how it works. These three students are in the advanced AI course. We have an intro, we have an advanced, and this year is the first year we're offering students who have completed the advanced course an opportunity to do one-on-one research with a grad student on a topic of their choice. So we're expecting that the number of students who might take that opportunity is going to grow as we have more students exposed to this. So it's not every student that's going to have the computer science background, have the math background, have the interest to understand AI this deeply. But as they alluded to, students are using AI anyway, whether they understand how it works or not. So we gathered a committee together early this year in October of faculty, students, parents, and Board of Ed. And we really asked the question of how should we be approaching AI? What are some things we should be doing? How are students using it? What's their experience? What are teachers doing? And the way we learned that is we facilitated, Brad and I, a number of focus groups. The AI committee helped develop the questions we asked at those focus groups, but those focus groups included 5th graders, middle schoolers. We had a 9th and 10th grade group, an 11th and 12th grade group. We had middle school faculty, high school faculty, as well as a group of parents. So we met with all of these groups, asked them similar questions, and compiled the feedback. And essentially, we brought that feedback back to the AI committee and talked about next steps. And one of the main next steps is we felt we needed to develop some guidelines around AI use in Bronxville. I think all of the administrative team and the faculty know that to say no AI is not only impossible, we'd spend all our time trying to catch kids using AI, but it doesn't make sense. Our job is to prepare students for the future. The future is going to include AI. We need to be teaching kids how to use it and teaching the adults how to leverage it. So we are developing some guidelines. I'll share our initial drafts, and we are communicating those to students and parents because one of the main things the parents asked us to do was to clarify what is the school's position on AI so that they can support that at home. So just to give you a sense of some of the resources that we reviewed, and just the other day, New York State Library Association came out with their own. New York State Department of Education has not released guidelines, but we looked at the UNESCO AI framework. You'll see that there's a particular framework we've used a lot, and this is actually something called AIU that came out of Elon University and the American Association of Colleges and Universities. It's one of the best frameworks for AI, and I think we felt using something that universities are using would prepare our high school students for that environment. But you can see there's a couple of states that have really good frameworks, as well as recently Chicago came out with one. And in about the last 3 weeks, the US Department of Education released something. So we've been reviewing all of these. So our guidelines based on the Elon University guidelines are make it your goal to become skilled in using AI comfortably, effectively, safely, and ethically. Learn AI's capabilities and limitations, and understand when and how it can augment your work and when your unique human expertise and creativity is invaluable. So when should we use AI? What is the role of AI in the work that we're doing? And when is the human component going to be more valuable than AI? These guidelines have now been shared with the high school faculty, and we're welcoming feedback from them. And then they will be shared with high school students at the beginning of the second semester. Ray and Anthony are going to be holding meetings with each grade. Brad and I are going to attend those to share these guidelines, as well as with the PTA at a district-wide PTA meeting in early March. Another thing that we found really useful in this Elon resource was a checklist, which we're gonna also pilot with students this spring, which is just what should they be asking themselves before they start an assignment, while they're doing an assignment, and when they're done with an assignment in terms of AI. So things like, does my teacher allow me to use AI in the way I'm using it on this assignment? Are the sources credible? Have I analyzed what AI has produced? And have I not used confidential or copyrighted or protected information? And then when it's over, regardless of how I used AI, am I able to explain what I'm presenting to my teacher without that? And can I demonstrate where my sources are from? So again, we need a handy tool for students to use. And with the guidelines and the checklist, everyone will be sharing the same information. Right now, teachers are kind of on their own figuring out what to say. We'd like the message to be clear. We'd like the message to be the same across the board and to be able to share it with parents. So this has also been shared with faculty for feedback, and again, will be presented to students at the beginning of the second semester and then parents at that PTA meeting. This is a tool from an educator in Australia that a lot of colleges and high schools are utilizing, and it's called the AI assessment scale, which is sort of a scale of, on this assignment or on this assessment, where is my teacher in terms of allowing AI use? From none to use as much as you want, as long as you cite it. Again, this gives us a way to communicate with students that is consistent across classes. Kids will understand this, teachers will utilize this. Where are we in this assignment on our AI assessment scale? All three of these, the guidelines, the checklist, and the assessment scale, we're basically piloting this semester, and we're gonna welcome feedback at the end of the semester on how useful they were, what was confusing, does this make sense, should we be changing our approach? But again, clear communication, trying to streamline things. I think the feedback from teachers is, this is very helpful, thank you. I want to have a way to talk to students about this that is a similar message across the board with other faculty. In terms of professional development, we are providing a lot of different ways for faculty to engage in becoming more familiar with AI, understanding how AI is being used by students, and understanding how they can leverage it. So we're going to be piloting software programs with the faculty this semester. One is called DiffIt, another is called Brisk, and the third is PlayLab. These are tools for faculty to use AI in the development of all sorts of things they can use with students. And we'll be providing professional development around those. That's not all the tools that faculty can use. They can use a lot of different tools, but these also comply with the Ed Law 2D requirements of New York State. We're also hosting these things called AI in 45. We had our first last month. We actually have our next one next week. Jerry Creasy is the former director of innovation at Scarsdale, and now he's essentially become a consultant, and he spends all his time staying up to date on AI and communicating with educators about it. So we've brought him in. His first session, 45 minutes and your mind is blown in terms of what is going on. This morning I was just at one with educational leaders, and once again, ChatGPT did the 12 days of Christmas in December, and every day introduced a new tool. To the point where they have this video creation software that, you can just type in, I'd like whatever character did it, and then it just builds a video for you. It's unreal. And we have to at least be exposed to this as educators to understand what are these tools and how are we going to adjust what we're teaching and doing with kids as a result. We're also partnering with Iona. They're going to come in and teach a group of faculty about their approach to AI. Again, exposing them to tools, but also talking about at the college level, what does this look like? So that's going to be happening this spring. And then finally, Brad is going to be facilitating an online course focusing on the software programs that we're piloting this spring. So I think this gives you a sense of where we're at in the moment. A lot will change between now and the end of the year. That's why none of this is set in stone. I think our approach in terms of faculty is we're trying to meet people where they're at. Everyone's at a different place. We're trying to bring everyone forward a little bit further. Some have fully embraced this. We have a couple of high school faculty who are doing unbelievable things with AI as a tool and teaching that to students. And some, it's a little scary. So we want to offer a variety of ways to engage in this. We want to provide students with a clear message, reiterate that to parents, and then continue to get feedback. And of course, continue having our own students learn how to code AI so that we have resources in the building when we have questions. I mean, I feel like it's an exciting time in education. We're learning with students, and they're probably further ahead than we are, which is not typical, but that's the new reality. So it's just got to be an open dialogue. Happy to take any questions.
Really impressive, Anne. I mean, I remember when you were still principal and you had called it early on. Early on, you said, this AI is going to change everything. And I'm really impressed with the work that you accomplished. I'm hoping students are getting a lot out of it. It sounds like you're doing the right thing in professional development. So really,
Thank you.
good work.
Thank
really.
you.
I know the foundation has been super helpful in the AI work. Are you getting all of the support you need from the school also?
Absolutely. I mean, this in Spirit AI was only possible through the foundation, this course that we offer, and we've offered the last 3 years. And I think we have a few things in mind in relation to AI going forward, some grants that we're hoping to write. One is going to involve Jerry working with faculty this summer to redesign curriculum, understanding what is available with AI. I think we're going to really have to rethink assessment, just in general. And that takes time. So that's going to be a big project that we hope and expect the foundation, as they always do, will partner with us on. But a lot of these tools, they're available on the devices we have. It's just a matter of how do we leverage them.
Great.
Have you considered at all, I mean, I know parents are inundated with news about this, not really using it as much maybe as students, just a guess. But have you ever contemplated maybe even a workshop for parents at a certain stage to help educate them on the ways that they can reinforce the kind of values with AI that we're trying to teach our kids at the school?
That's a great idea. We haven't thought about that at this point. I think in early March we'll share this kind of information with them, but that would be a great next step. Our focus group conversation with the parents was phenomenal. I mean, I think it's going to be important for us to keep an open dialogue with the professionals in this community to just talk about what it's looking like in the workplace, because that needs to inform what we're preparing kids for. And I think it's transforming the workplace as well. So parents are a great resource for that kind of information. So I think the more we can dialogue with them, the better.
Great. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thanks,
Yeah, great job. And you can depart. If you'd like to leave, you can leave. Don't feel obligated to stay. You're welcome to stay. But if you'd like, please. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys.
Good job.
Great job.
Are we moving on to the next year's calendar?
Good job, guys.
Great job. Great job.
Yeah. Thank you. Go ahead, Rachel.
Although the students may have wanted to stay for this because we have some good news as it relates to next year's calendar. So this is a first reading, if you will, of the 25-26 school calendar. We have some parameters we must adhere to, 186 teacher days and at least 182 student days. Doesn't look all that different from this year. Based on negotiations, we're able to have 2 superintendent's conference days before Labor Day, which is nice because then we can hit the ground running and have an instructional day immediately after Labor Day. There are the typical holidays that we have off for in the fall. We're going to have a 3rd superintendent's conference day, Monday, November 10th, which is the day before Veterans Day. So for families, that'll be a 4-day weekend, which is always a nice time of year for some college visits for our high school students. In December, the way that the calendar falls, we are able to offer 2 full weeks again. We have Martin Luther King Jr. Day in January, as well as the week in February. Within the week in February falls the Lunar New Year, which is a required New York State holiday. So that's not another instructional day we're losing. Superintendent's Conference Day in March, and then the spring recess overlaps with both Passover and Easter. As you know, we have a stipulation in the teacher's contract that if we don't use 4 of our snow days, the board does consider which day to give back, if you will. And the past couple of years, we've been able to do that the Monday after Easter. So that's a possibility in this calendar as well. And then in May, we have Memorial Day. And then in June, we are required to have a holiday on Juneteenth. And then we do believe the Regents Rating Day, although we have not been officially informed by the State Education Department, will be the 26th. Happy to take any questions on that, and we'll get feedback from the community, from each of you, before I ask you to adopt a version next month.
Great. Any questions for Rachel? Dr. Kelly? Okay, we'll move on to personnel.
Great. Okay, so you have before you resolutions for consideration this evening. We've had a teacher resignation in the elementary school, an extension of a leave, as well as a new 4th grade teacher to replace Meg Hansen, who became an assistant principal in Irvington. As a result of some of those changes, there are some revisions to our teacher mentor list. We also have some regular substitute appointments, as well as a few more teacher aide resignations. And I thank Anthony and Christine for being all over those and ensuring that our students are well cared for during this time of transition. And then we have a new boys varsity lacrosse assistant coach. Again, when it's an initial appointment of a coach that's never worked here before, they go on as a separate resolution. And if they are a returning coach, then they're on the roster. And we have the first of the spring coaches roster before you this evening. Happy to take any questions.
Questions? Okay, motion to approve personnel items? All in favor? Aye. Aye, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Dan, we are on to you.
I just want to start just by letting everybody know that the business office kind of took a gut punch this week. We lost our accounts payable clerk, who passed away, Emma Kinney. She worked here for over 20 years and had really battled some serious health issues for the last 3. So obviously we're going to miss her. And for now, my assistant, Kathleen Matthews, is filling in admirably, but big shoes to fill. So we're going to miss Emma. Moving on, the projection that the board has for the current fiscal year is conservative and remains unchanged from the prior month, as we're still digesting the impact of the BTA settlement, so I'm not yet projecting any surplus from salary lines, but I do expect some eventually. As we've had some favorable enrollment swings in health benefits, we're showing some savings there. Overall, I'm comfortable where expenditures are looking at this point for the full year, and expect projected surplus to gradually grow from here. Revenues, are good news. We continue to project a surplus in both non-residential tuition and interest earnings. Will both be favorable for the year. So a total surplus of about $550,000 is projected at this point, which is more than enough to cover the $500,000 fund balance allocation that we are proposing to offset the tax levy in the first draft of the 2025-26 budget to be presented on January 25 with a little sneak preview tonight. Any questions?
Okay.
All right, we can move on. Connie, give us a sneak preview for next Saturday. No, backspace maybe? That's the second one, I think. Yeah, just hit the space. Yeah, there you go. Right now, with the budget that was distributed to the board and administrators prior to the break, we're at about 55.2 million. With that, we are budgeting revenue other than property tax of almost $6 million, leaving a figure that normally we would look to taxpayers to provide of 49.2 million. However, that tax levy change would be about 3.4%, so we're looking to continue our fund balance appropriation to offset the tax levy of about $500,000, which is unchanged from the prior year, which brings the estimated tax levy down to about 48.7 million. And right now that sits at about a 2.38% increase. Our projected cap is about 2.19%, which is about $90,000 off. At this point last year, we were probably about $600,000 off. So, you know, this is certainly reachable. Next slide, please, Connie. What's next? As I mentioned, we're still a little bit over the cap. We're awaiting our inflation factor that goes into the calculation of the cap. I'm 99.9% sure it's going to be the full 2%, but we need to be officially told that. We are also awaiting clarity regarding some variables, state aid, and the final teacher's retirement system rate. I think when the final teacher's retirement system rate comes out, we'll be able to reduce the budget a little bit because I always budget at the highest end of their range that they provide us, so we don't get a surprise late in the game. And then, you know, we're certainly reachable to the cap, so we'll be looking at any further revenue enhancements or expenditure cuts to get under that cap. And we'll recommend that in the coming weeks, but Saturday, not this coming Saturday, January 25th, we'll review the development in detail and also save some time at the end of that meeting, as we'll discuss a little later when I get the facilities, to talk about the next bond project. But we're in better shape this year than we were last year at this point.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay.
I have one financial action item. As recommended by our auditors, we are sending the $10,275.67 balance of the Meg Connors scholarship funds back to the control of the Connors family and closing the related account on our books. The Connors family can now control the investment of the funds, which is good news, as they would not be limited to the investment restrictions of public schools, which is basically T-bills. So hopefully they can wring a little more yield out of that.
Okay.
So,
Any questions for Dan about that? Okay, motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I kind of gave a little foreshadowing that there's a lot going on as far as facilities is concerned. A week ago tonight, we were here till past 9 o'clock, interviewing 4 construction management firms. You know, we conducted those interviews and references were compared. The Facilities Committee was unanimous in recommending Calgi Construction Corp. To begin as soon as possible in helping affirm the budgets for the upcoming referendum proposal. And there's a financial action, a facilities action item a little later on. But the committee was also busy prioritizing and reducing the scope of the upcoming project, which at the beginning of the meeting sat at about $36 million. And by the end of the meeting was down somewhere between 25 and 26 million. And that work is still going to go on all the way up until the point the project is bid. More to come on that, as I mentioned, on Saturday, January 25th as well. And then Mike Lee also conducted a bid for landscaping maintenance services, which will be awarded at the next meeting, and saw Abe Bulfamonte Landscaping as the only bidder. So that, you know, we're happy with that. You know, he installed it, so we're happy that he's going to maintain it. And he's not only the front lawn, but around the whole building. So it should be looking a lot better than it did the last few years.
Great.
And as I mentioned, the facilities action item is the appointment of Calgi Construction as the construction manager on the upcoming project at a base cost not to exceed $725,600. We think we can get them a little lower than that, seeing as though the scope is reduced, but they let me know that more so than the scope is the time involved, and the highest cost is the on-site construction manager for them. So that really doesn't change much, because the time we'll be building pretty much stays the same, but we'll get them lower. And authorizing the board president to execute all related documents. What happens is they submit us a contract, we run it by our council. If any changes are recommended by our council, they usually agree to them. And so once council approves it, we'll have that for the board president's signature.
Okay. Thank you. Motion to approve.
Just one quick change, Dan, it was 724,600.
Little typo.
Thank you.
Oh, that's correct.
Yeah.
You're correct, I'm not.
All right. Just get a motion to approve the facilities action item on the construction management firm.
Motion?
Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Thank you, Dan. We're excited to get started. Eddie, why don't we start with you on our facilities committee, and you could share some of your insights about what's been progressing behind the scenes.
Sure. So we have a list of things that need to get done around the building that is $60 million. We knew this project was going to be big, and a lot of it has to do with brick and mortar and safety, and I think that the community understands. Most folks live in older homes here. You know, what needs to go into those homes to keep them up and running, and the school is no different, you know, at the age that it's at. So this is a really important project. We got that number down through a priority list to around 36 million, as Dan alluded to. And then, you know, just had to do our due diligence and get that number lower to make sure that the financial impact of families was at a minimum. So I think we're pretty comfortable where we are right now. We'll continue to look and see if there's anything else that we can chip away at. But it's going to be a big project. It's going to be at least 2 summers, probably with some stuff happening after hours during the school year. It's going to be disruptive, so we're going to try and squeeze as much of that, the dirty work in the first summer, so that, you know, we can limit the disruption to the classrooms as much as possible. And a lot of it is going to take place in the elementary school. So, you know, we want to make sure that those classrooms are up and running for those kids.
And it'll be beginning next summer.
It'll be beginning next summer, yeah. So the intention is to have this referendum be on the ballot in May, and if it passes, you know, we're ready to hit the ground running. The construction manager that we have chosen was actually the lowest bidder, and they seemed like they were going to be the best for the job. So it was kind of a win-win, and keep our fingers crossed. None of this stuff ever goes as according to plan, but we can hope to do it as close to that as possible. And thank you, Dan and Mike Lee, for all your hard work on this. You know, you guys were an integral part of getting us where we are right now. So I think we're all feeling a lot better than we were a week and a half ago. We've got a better idea of what the scope of work is going to look like. And, you know, we're putting together a plan of action. It's going to be, you know, we'll present it to the community, and, you know, it's going to be a good project, and we need it. So hopefully everyone's on board.
Thank you, Eddie.
Thanks.
Thank you. And Susan, maybe you want to share some thoughts for the Finance Committee?
Sure.
Maybe that's related to this?
Well, because we're in such good shape for next year's operating budget, the focus of the Finance Committee these days is really debt capacity and paying for the project. So Dan's done a lot of work on debt capacity, and we've been able to review different scenarios and schedules and, you know, possibilities given where interest rates may or may not be when we actually go out to the market. But also Dan's taken the time to look forward and create a 5-year projection of our operating statements, which is very, very helpful because it's partly what has shaped our, you know, what we need to solve for in terms of what we can afford for the capital project. So many thanks to Dan for that. But as Eddie said, the project right now, the goal is for the work to begin the summer of 2026.
Yep.
We definitely think we'll need 27, 28 as well, and we're preparing for the possibility of a third year, but we hope that won't be the case. And the debt service would begin 27, 28. So we've got a good runway to plan for that. It'll be a big addition to our cash outflow, and we're trying to make sure that we can moderate the impact to the tax burden.
Thank you.
Well said.
Any other questions or comments? Anybody? Okay. Just want to highlight, I know Dan already mentioned, we have our budget workshop coming up on January 25th. Tuesday, February 11th will be our next meeting. And then we have another budget workshop. We do this twice because we had so much fun the first time on March 8th. With that, Connie, I believe,
I have one more.
Oh, Eduardo, please.
Committee update for the Bronxville School Foundation.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So the foundation is in the midst of its fundraising drive, and on Saturday, January 25th, they are hosting a fete at Siwanoy. It's next Saturday. There are very few tickets left for anybody interested. Move now or forever regret not being there. It's going to be quite a night. It's going to be a great night to mingle and chat with folks and get to know more about the foundation and chat with administrators. I think a lot of us are going to try and be there. So it's a good cause. The school can't operate the way that we do without the foundation and the hard work that they do. So thank you to the Bronxville School Foundation, and I hope everybody can join next Saturday.
Thank you. Thank you, Eddie. Now we can go to public comment. Is there anything on the line? I'm sorry? Nothing on blank. Okay. Look at that, 7:57. How great is that? Okay. Thank you all for coming. Have a great evening. We need a motion to adjourn. Motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have to call the 8 o'clock mic.